Hi, this short video will give you an overview of why referencing is important and how you can avoid plagiarism. At the end of this video, you should be able to explain the importance of academic integrity, identify common forms of plagiarism, and be able to implement the two main forms of referencing, direct quotes and paraphrasing. Academic integrity is fundamental to all activities at university. It is about mastering the art of researching, understanding, and building upon the work of others. It requires you to give credit where it is due and acknowledge the contributions of others to your own intellectual efforts. For instance, see how I have acknowledged where my quote came from. If you use words, ideas, or any other work by someone else without giving credit to this person, it is referred to as plagiarism. Here are 5 common forms of plagiarism. Cheating in an exam by either copying from other students or using unauthorized notes or other aids. Submitting, as your own, an assignment that another person has completed. Downloading information, text, computer code, artwork, graphics, or other material from the internet and presenting it as your own without acknowledgement. Quoting or paraphrasing material from a source without acknowledgement. Preparing a correctly cited and referenced assignment from individual research and then handing in part or all of that work twice for separate subjects or marks. So how can you avoid plagiarism? You must give credit to the sources for the ideas you are using by correctly referencing them. The 2 most important ways of referencing are direct quotes and paraphrasing. Let's first talk about direct quotes. A direct quote is when you take an exact phrase from a source and reuse it word for word in your own work. Just a note of caution. It is important not to use too many direct quotes in your assignment, as it should be generally written in your own words. You should only use direct quotes where either you cannot paraphrase the information, or to paraphrase the information would corrupt its meaning to the point where it is no longer correct. If you overuse quotes in an assignment, your lecturer is likely to think that you have not analyzed, evaluated and interpreted the information, and you may receive a lower mark. When using a quote, you must give the source credit by citing it properly, no matter what the source is. The source could be a book, journal article, website, video, or lecture notes. The way a direct quote is presented depends on the referencing style you are using. Check your unit outline or ask your lecturer which referencing style you should use. This is an example of a direct quote using the Vancouver style. As you can see, you need to place the quote in quotation marks. You must provide information about the source of the quote in the text, a so-called in-text citation. In this case, it is the use of an Arabic number in brackets. You also need to add information about the source to your reference list at the end of your work. It is very important that you apply all these 3 elements to a direct quote: quotation marks, an in-text citation, and a complete reference in the reference list. If you, for example, reuse somebody else's words and don't use quotation marks, you insinuate that they are your own words. This is considered as plagiarism and may be heavily penalized. The way you cite information can be important depending on the emphasis you wish to apply. The example we looked at is author prominent. It emphasizes the authors of the source by mentioning them in the sentence. However, if you wish to emphasize the information you have quoted rather than the authors, you may like to phrase the sentence differently to make it information prominent. For more information on the Vancouver referencing style and links to examples, have a look at the Referencing and Assignment Writing Subject Guide on the UTES Library website. If in doubt, talk to your lecturers. They are the ones who mark your work, so don't be shy to ask them for clarification. The other common way of giving credit to a source is paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is when you restate a passage from a source in your own words. It is similar to a direct quote in that you are borrowing someone else's idea to enhance your work. Therefore, it is important that you reference this passage properly by citing the source of the idea. Firstly, you are required to include an in-text citation. For the Vancouver referencing style, this is an Arabic number in brackets. Secondly, you need to add the full information about the source at the end of your work in your reference list. If you are using a different referencing style to Vancouver, check the library's referencing and assignment writing subject guide for information about it. This example is an information prominent way of referencing the original source in text. You can also choose to make the sentence author prominent, depending on what information you would like to emphasize. There are a few things you need to be aware of when paraphrasing. Make sure you analyze or provide your own perspective on an idea. Also, simply changing a few words here and there or rearranging words or sentences is not paraphrasing. Paraphrasing of a source should usually be more concise and have a different sentence structure and word choice. So, what have we learned? Whenever you use other people's ideas and research, you need to reference and acknowledge it by citing it properly. This applies not only to books, journal articles and websites, but also other material such as lecture notes, photographs and videos. The only time that you don't need to cite is when the information is deemed to be common knowledge. Common knowledge is information generally known to an educated reader, such as widely known facts and dates. For example, a widely known scientific fact is that the molecular structure of water is H2O. Figuring out whether something is common knowledge can be tricky, and it's always better to cite a source if you're not sure whether information or idea is common knowledge. Here is a good tip to decrease the likelihood that you will unintentionally plagiarize. Before you start writing your assignment, you probably make notes about the material you plan to use. It's a good idea to read this material, think about it carefully, and write it down in your own words. Be sure that you note down the citation of the source you are reading as well. This will help you with proper referencing later on. We are at the end of this short video on referencing and avoiding plagiarism. You now should have a basic understanding of why referencing is important and how you can avoid plagiarism.